What if I told you that some of the most profound secrets of our planet aren't hidden in outer space or deep beneath the ocean, but right under our feet, waiting in the silent darkness of caves? Picture this: you take a step into one of these ancient caverns, and suddenly, you're not just walking through rock, you're traveling through time. Every speck of dust that swirls in the beam of your headlamp could be thousands of years old. Every drop of water that has slowly, patiently built magnificent stalactites carries chemical whispers of rain that fell when mammoths still roamed the earth. These places are so much more than hollow spaces in stone. They are living libraries holding volumes of unwritten history in their stillness. In these underground sanctuaries, time doesn't just pass, it accumulates. These caverns have captured moments from our planet's past with astonishing clarity, preserving ancient DNA, mineral dust, and even the echoes of rainfall from climates long gone. They've witnessed ice ages come and go, recorded the comings and goings of species we'll never see again, and safeguarded traces of early humans who once took shelter in their depths. What's incredible is that these natural time capsules don't require any human intervention to protect their treasures. Their stable, cool, and dark environments act as perfect vaults, sealing away stories that would have otherwise been lost to erosion, sunlight, or decay. Today, we're going to explore these subterranean wonders together, venturing into the world of caves that have captured time itself. We'll uncover how scientists are now reading these archives, decoding messages left behind in stone, sediment, and even air. From understanding drastic climate shifts and piecing together the puzzle of human migration, to rediscovering lost ecosystems and extinct species, the findings emerging from these caverns are reshaping our understanding of Earth's history in real time. So come with me, deeper than we've ever gone before, into the quiet, mysterious, and breathtakingly beautiful world of caves, where the past isn't really past at all, it's just waiting for us to listen. To truly grasp how caves become these extraordinary keepers of time, we need to understand the very specific conditions that make them so unique. Unlike the surface world, which is constantly battered by wind, scorched by sun, and reshaped by rain, a cave's interior exists in a state of remarkable stability. The temperature barely changes, humidity levels remain constant, and sunlight, one of the biggest forces of degradation, is completely absent. This creates a perfectly protected environment, a natural vault where delicate materials can survive for millennia without crumbling away. It's this stillness that allows caves to protect their treasures, effectively pressing pause on the decay process that claims so much of our history above ground. One of the most visible ways caves record time is through their breathtaking mineral formations. Those stone icicles hanging from the ceiling, known as stalactites, and the mounds rising from the floor, called stalagmites, are far more than just beautiful decorations. They are, in fact, climate diaries written in stone. Each one grows with almost unbelievable slowness, sometimes taking a century to add just a single centimeter of length. They form drop by drop as water seeps through the rock above, picking up minerals like calcite and then depositing them in the cave below. But these drops don't just carry minerals, they also capture tiny bubbles of ancient air, particles of dust, and even organic matter from the soil above. Each layer of a stalactite or stalagmite holds a chemical signature of the environment at the exact moment it was formed, creating a continuous, high-resolution record that can stretch back hundreds of thousands of years. Beneath our feet on a cave floor lies another incredible archive, built not from dripping water but from settling dust. Over centuries, fine sediments accumulate, creating a stratified sequence much like the rings of a tree or layers in an ice core. These layers are the pages of an unbound history book. In one stratum, you might find a thick concentration of pollen from a type of grass that thrived during a warm, wet period. In another, a layer of ash from a long-forgotten volcanic eruption that darkened the skies for years. Scientists can find microscopic fragments of bone, ancient animal droppings, charcoal from prehistoric fires, and even lost tools or artifacts from early human visitors. By carefully excavating and dating these layers, researchers can reconstruct a detailed timeline of events, piecing together a story of what lived, what died, and what changed in the world outside the cave's silent entrance. This multi-layered chronicle, written in stone, mineral, and sediment, allows us to decode Earth's grand evolutionary narrative in a way no other environment can. A single cave can offer clues from the fields of biology, geology, climatology, and archaeology all at once. By reading these natural archives, we don't just get isolated facts, we get interconnected stories. We can see how a shift in climate patterns, recorded in a stalagmite's chemistry, might have led to a change in vegetation, which is then evidenced by a shift in the pollen found in the sediments, which subsequently correlates to the disappearance of a certain animal species from the fossil record. It's this powerful combination of different types of data preserved together that makes caves such unparalleled geological timekeepers, offering us a unified and profoundly detailed window into the deep past. But the real magic of these underground vaults goes far deeper than what we can see with the naked eye. Hidden within the cool, dark, and incredibly stable environment of a cave, something even more fragile is preserved, the very blueprint of life itself. We're talking about ancient DNA. In the outside world, genetic material begins to break down almost immediately after an organism dies, shattered by UV radiation, washed away by rain, or consumed by bacteria. But inside a cave protected from these destructive forces, fragments of DNA can survive for tens of thousands of years, sometimes even longer. It's a concept that almost defies belief, that within a pinch of cave sediment, there could be invisible, molecular ghosts of creatures that walked the Earth during the last ice age. This isn't just about finding a perfectly preserved bone. Scientists are now making monumental discoveries simply by sifting through the dirt. They take a core sample from the cave floor, a column of packed earth that represents thousands of years of accumulated history, and bring it back to the lab. There, they use sophisticated chemical processes to wash the sediment and isolate minuscule fragments of genetic material that have leached from long decomposed organisms. From this genetic soup, they can identify an incredible array of life. One sample might contain DNA from a giant ground sloth that brushed against the cave wall, a dire wolf that died in its depths, a species of moss that grew at the entrance, and even the microbes that lived in the soil above. It's like taking a silent, empty cave and using forensic genetics to reconstruct the vibrant, teeming ecosystem that once surrounded it, all from a handful of dirt. The technological leap that made this possible is nothing short of revolutionary. Just a decade or two ago, studying ancient DNA was a daunting, often impossible task. The samples were degraded, contaminated, and incredibly difficult to sequence. But today, with next-generation sequencing technology, researchers can take these shattered, puzzle-like fragments of DNA and, using powerful computers and a modern relative's genome as a guide, piece them back together. They can now reconstruct entire genomes from the most minuscule and degraded samples, effectively reading the complete genetic instruction manual of a species that has been extinct for 40,000 years. This allows them to answer questions we once thought were lost to time. How are Neanderthals genetically related to modern humans? What did a cave bear actually look like, and what did it eat? How did a species adapt to a rapidly changing climate before it finally vanished? This genetic treasure trove is shedding brilliant light on evolutionary relationships, migration patterns, and the complex causes behind major extinction events. Ultimately, this isn't just about satisfying our curiosity about the past. This genetic data provides profound insights into how entire ecosystems responded to massive climate shifts and the growing influence of human activities. By seeing which species' DNA appears and then disappears from the sediment record, scientists can pinpoint the exact timing of a collapse in biodiversity and correlate it with archaeological evidence of human arrival or climate data from stalagmites. It shows us that ecosystems are incredibly resilient, but also frighteningly fragile. The study of ancient DNA from caves is fundamentally revolutionizing our understanding of biodiversity, adaptation, and the deep interconnected history of life on Earth. It gives us a powerful new lens through which to view our planet's past, and perhaps more importantly, a crucial tool for predicting and protecting its future. While we often focus on the grand stalactites or the bones of large animals, some of the most revealing evidence in these caves is so small it's almost invisible. Cave dust, that seemingly insignificant layer of fine powder settling on every surface, is in fact one of the most detailed and continuous archives nature has to offer. It's easy to walk right past it, but to a scientist, this dust is a treasure trove of microscopic stories, each particle a tiny messenger from a different time and place. Over centuries and millennia, this dust has drifted in from the world outside, carried on air currents through cave openings or washed in by water, slowly building up in undisturbed layers that act as a precise timeline of environmental change. The composition of this dust is a complex mixture that tells a multifaceted story. It contains mineral grains that reveal the geology of the surrounding landscape, showing whether winds were blowing in from a dry lakebed, a volcanic field, or a glacial plain. But mixed in with those minerals are tiny, resilient organic clues. Pollen grains from long-vanished forests and meadows are incredibly well preserved in the cave's stable environment. By identifying the types of plants these pollen grains came from, researchers can map out what the vegetation was like outside the cave during any given century. A sudden increase in grass pollen might indicate a dry period where forests retreated, while a spike in tree pollen could signal a return to wetter, warmer conditions. It's like having a continuous botanical survey conducted over tens of thousands of years. Perhaps even more dramatic are the traces of catastrophe preserved in this dust. Microscopic fragments of charcoal, known as micro-charcoal, are a direct signature of fire. When a large wildfire rages across a landscape, it sends immense plumes of ash and these tiny charcoal particles high into the atmosphere, where winds can carry them for hundreds of miles before they eventually settle inside caves. By counting these charcoal particles in different sediment layers, scientists can pinpoint periods of intense fire activity in the past. A thick band of micro-charcoal doesn't just tell us that a fire happened. It can indicate a prolonged drought or a period of extreme heat that made the landscape a tinderbox. Similarly, a distinct layer of volcanic ash with a unique chemical fingerprint can be matched to a known eruption, providing an absolute date that anchors the entire timeline of the cave's record, much like a timestamp on a historical document. By analyzing the size, shape, and even the chemistry of these dust particles, researchers can go a step further and actually trace the ancient weather patterns that brought them there. Larger, heavier grains typically fall out of the air close to their source, while finer particles can be carried vast distances. The specific mix of local minerals and far-traveled dust in a layer tells a story about wind direction and intensity. A shift in the dominant particle type could indicate a change in prevailing winds, perhaps due to the shifting of ocean currents or the advance of ice sheets. This allows climatologists to reconstruct atmospheric circulation patterns from centuries ago, understanding how storms, droughts, and seasonal winds behaved in a world very different from our own. This dusty evidence is crucial for painting a complete picture of paleoclimates and understanding how sudden natural disasters shaped the habitats of both humans and animals. A layer of dust showing drought followed by intense fire could explain a gap in the archaeological record or the local extinction of a sensitive species. It provides the environmental context for the DNA found in the same sediments, helping us understand not just who was living there, but what it was like to live there. Each individual speck of dust might seem meaningless on its own, but when combined, they form a pointillist masterpiece of environmental history, revealing a dynamic planet where climate and life are in a constant, intricate dance. But the story of water doesn't end when it drips from the ceiling. In fact, that's where one of the most precise records begins. Those majestic stalagmites rising from the cave floor and the smooth, flowing sheets of rock known as flowstones are far more than inert mineral decorations. They are, in essence, climate logbooks, and their pages are written in the language of atoms. Every drop of water that contributes to their growth carries with it a unique chemical signature, a subtle but powerful echo of the rain that fell on the surface thousands of years ago. This signature is locked into the very crystal structure of the rock, preserving a moment in climatic time with incredible fidelity. The key to unlocking these echoes lies in the study of isotopes, which are different forms of the same element. Oxygen, for instance, has a heavier isotope, oxygen-18, and a lighter one, oxygen-16. The ratio between these two isotopes in a drop of rainwater is incredibly sensitive to temperature. During a warm period, more of the lighter oxygen-16 evaporates from the ocean and falls as rain, leaving a distinct ratio in the water that eventually drips into a cave and becomes part of a stalagmite. During a colder, glacial period, the ratio shifts dramatically. By meticulously analyzing these oxygen isotope ratios along the entire length of a stalagmite core, scientists can essentially take the temperature of the planet for every year of that formation's growth, creating a continuous thermometer that stretches back deep into the ice ages. Carbon isotopes, primarily carbon-12 and carbon-13, tell a parallel story about life on the surface. The water that percolates down through the soil picks up carbon dissolved from plant roots and decaying organic matter. Different types of vegetation like dense forests versus open grasslands process carbon in unique ways, leaving distinct isotopic fingerprints in the water. A shift in the carbon ratio within a stalagmite layer can signal a major change in the ecosystem above the cave, perhaps showing when a forest gave way to prairie due to a drying climate or when vegetation rebounded after a volcanic winter. Together, the oxygen and carbon isotopes provide a powerful dual record, one of physical climate conditions like temperature and rainfall source, and another of the biological response to those changes. To access this layered history, researchers use a hollow diamond-tipped drill bit to extract a core from the center of a stalagmite, much like how scientists take ice cores from glaciers. This core is then sliced open to reveal its internal growth bands, which can be dated with astonishing precision using the radioactive decay of trace amounts of uranium into thorium. This gives every single date a point an exact calendar date. What emerges from this analysis is a high-resolution timeline of hydrological change. Scientists can identify not just broad ice age transitions, but specific decades-long droughts that crippled ancient civilizations, the precise intensity of monsoon seasons over thousands of years, and even the cyclical patterns of events like El Niño deep in the past. This ability to look back with such clarity at how the planet's water cycle has behaved under different conditions is invaluable for testing and improving the climate models we use to predict the future. By understanding the dynamics of past droughts and deluges, we gain critical insight into the potential severity and frequency of such events in our warming world. These silent stone rain echoes offer a unique and irreplaceable window into the history of one of our most vital resources, providing context for the changes we are observing today and helping us prepare for what might come next. Now let's journey to a place where this incredible interplay of climate, life, and time is written with particular clarity: the majestic caves of Borneo. Isolated for millennia and shrouded in the humidity of the world's oldest rainforests, these tropical caverns, like those within Gunung Mulu National Park, have become one of the planet's most revealing time capsules. Their remote location and unique environment have created an archive of exceptional preservation, offering a front-row seat to the dramatic climatic theater of Southeast Asia. Here, the story isn't just about slow, glacial ice age cycles. It's about the pulsating, life-giving force of the monsoon and its profound sway over one of Earth's most biodiverse regions. The primary narrators of this story are the stunning stalagmites that rise from the cave floors. Scientists have carefully extracted cores from these formations, and within their crystalline layers, they've found a high-resolution record of the region's rainfall stretching back over 250,000 years. By analyzing the oxygen isotopes locked within each band, researchers can trace the precise intensity of the ancient monsoon rains. The data reveals periods where the monsoon was exceptionally strong, delivering drenching rains that would have caused the rainforest to explode outward, its canopy thickening and expanding its reach. Conversely, the stalagmites also record prolonged periods of a weaker monsoon, times of drought and stress that would have caused the great forests to contract into fragmented refuges, with open savannas likely dominating the landscape in between. This endless dance of expansion and contraction, driven by the monsoon's rhythm, fundamentally shaped the evolution and distribution of life on the island. This climatic context brings incredible meaning to the biological secrets being pulled from the cave sediments themselves. Genetic analysis of the ancient dirt within these caves has begun to identify a ghost ecosystem of creatures that have long since vanished. Most poignantly, researchers have detected the DNA of the Bornean tiger, a subspecies that went extinct in the modern era, but whose genetic traces confirm it was a native predator woven into the island's ancient fabric for millennia. But the findings go beyond recently lost species. They hint at a much older cast of characters, including ancient elephants and other megafauna that once roamed these tropical landscapes, their disappearance likely tied to those same climatic shifts recorded in the stalagmites. The caves have also safeguarded clues about the human chapter of this story. While skeletal remains are rare in the acidic soils of the rainforest, cave sediments have preserved genetic evidence of ancient human populations. This data is helping to map the migration routes of early humans who moved through Southeast Asia, suggesting how these ancient people adapted to the changing environment. It paints a picture of human settlement that ebbed and flowed with the climate, with populations likely clustering around the caves and other reliable resources during harsh, dry periods, then expanding their reach when the rains returned and the forest was flush with life. What makes Borneo such a powerful case study is how it all connects. We can see a direct link between a climatic event, a major shift in monsoon strength recorded in a stalagmite and its cascading effects. That shift would have altered the forest, which is evidenced by a change in the pollen types found in the sediment layers. That change in vegetation would have impacted the herbivores that relied on it, which in turn would have affected the predators that hunted them, all of which is now confirmed by the ancient DNA found in that very same dirt. It's a seamless, interconnected narrative of cause and effect, showing how climate acts as a powerful conductor for the symphony of life. Borneo's caves exemplify the ultimate power of these subterranean archives. They don't just hold isolated facts, they preserve entire ecological narratives, allowing us to read the complex and ever-changing story of our planet in breathtaking detail. While the caves of Borneo offer a panoramic view of climate and ecosystem change, another set of caves, located in the rolling hills of northern Spain, provides an intensely focused close-up on the most intimate chapter of our planet's history, our own. The Atapuerca mountain range, a modest limestone ridge near the city of Burgos, is arguably the single most important window into human evolution in all of Europe. This isn't just one cave, but a complex network of sites, each one a different chapter in an epic family saga written in stone and bone. For over half a century, archaeologists have been carefully excavating these passages, and with every season, they peel back another layer of time, bringing us face to face with our deepest ancestors in a way that is both humbling and profoundly illuminating. The significance of Atapuerca is immediately apparent in the sheer age and diversity of the human remains discovered there. In a site known as the Gran Dolina, researchers unearthed fossils of a species they named Homo antecessor, or pioneer man. These bones, dated to an astonishing 1,200,000 years ago, represent some of the very first humans to ever set foot on the European continent. Then, in a deep, vertical shaft called the Cima de los Huesos, the Pit of the Bones, scientists made a discovery that is nothing short of miraculous. A collection of more than 7,000 fossils belonging to at least 28 individuals of another species, Homo heidelbergensis. This group, who lived around 430,000 years ago, represents a treasure trove that gives us an entire community frozen in time, allowing us to study not just individual anatomy but population variation, potential injuries, and even signs of care. But the caves don't just hold bones, they are littered with the tangible evidence of daily life and ingenuity. The sediment layers are a veritable museum of prehistoric technology, containing meticulously crafted stone tools like hand axes and scrapers that show a clear progression in cognitive skill and planning over hundreds of thousands of years. In some layers, researchers have found compelling evidence of the controlled use of fire, ashes, and charred bones, a technological leap that provided warmth, protection, and a new way to process food. This combination of fossils and artifacts creates a powerful narrative, tracing the journey of early humans from vulnerable newcomers in a challenging environment to increasingly sophisticated masters of their domain. Perhaps the most groundbreaking revelations have come from the tiny, invisible biological clues preserved by the cave's perfectly stable conditions. Despite the immense age of the remains, scientists have managed to extract ancient DNA from the fossils in the Cima de los Huesos. The genetic analysis delivered a stunning surprise. These Homo heidelbergensis individuals were not the direct ancestors of Neanderthals as once thought, but were very closely related to them, and their DNA even hints at a much earlier, mysterious encounter with the Denisovan lineage in Asia. This genetic data is rewriting the complex family tree of humanity, revealing a past filled with interbreeding and interaction between different human species, painting a picture of evolution that is far less linear and much more intertwined than we ever imagined. What makes Atapuerca so uniquely valuable is its perfect preservation conditions. The constant cool temperature and high humidity within these deep chambers have acted like a natural refrigerator, protecting delicate organic materials that would have completely vanished in an open-air site. This includes not just bones, but potentially other materials that rarely survive, allowing for a level of detail in analysis that is usually impossible. It is this combination of deep time, incredible fossils, and pristine preservation that makes Atapuerca an unparalleled laboratory for paleoanthropology. Every new finding from these caves forces us to reconsider what we know about human origins, migration out of Africa, and the relationships between the different branches of our extended family, continuously reshaping the story of how we came to be. While we often think of caves as silent and passive recipients of history, some of their most dynamic and valuable record keepers are actually the creatures that call them home. Bats, in their countless thousands, pour out of cave entrances at dusk in a living river, and their daily return brings with it a constant influx of organic material from the outside world. This cycle of departure and return transforms these caves from simple geological archives into vibrant, living ecosystems, and the key to this transformation is something quite unexpected: their waste. The immense piles of bat guano that accumulate on cave floors over centuries are far from just a messy inconvenience. They are a meticulously layered, information-rich sediment that adds a whole new dimension to the stories these caves can tell. This guano acts as a powerful natural fertilizer for the cave's sedimentary record, constantly enriching it with a concentrated infusion of organic matter and nutrients. Every layer represents the dietary history of the colony. By using radiocarbon dating on these stratified deposits, scientists can construct a precise timeline of the bat's presence. But the analysis goes much deeper. Using a technique called stable isotope analysis, researchers can examine the chemical signatures within the guano itself. The nitrogen and carbon isotopes present are like a receipt from the bat's dinner, telling us what they were eating in any given era. A shift in these isotopes could indicate a change from a diet rich in moths to one dominated by beetles, or a move from forest-dwelling insects to those from open grasslands. This provides a direct, continuous record of how the bat population's foraging habits changed in response to the environment outside the cave. The true genius of this system, however, is that the bats are unknowingly collecting and depositing environmental samples on a massive scale. As they fly through the night sky hunting insects, their bodies become covered in pollen grains from the plants and trees below. They also consume insects that themselves have fed on specific plants. This pollen passes through the bats and is preserved in the guano, creating an incredibly detailed record of the surrounding vegetation. A sudden change in the type of pollen found in the guano layers can signal a dramatic shift in the local ecosystem. Perhaps a forest was cleared, a drought turned grasslands to dust, or a new type of plant became dominant. Furthermore, the hard, indigestible parts of the insects they eat, like beetle wing cases or moth scales, are also preserved, offering another independent line of evidence about the insect populations that were thriving at the time. Perhaps most surprisingly, the acidic nature of the guano, which one might assume would destroy evidence, actually plays a crucial role in preservation. In the right conditions, this acidity can help to mineralize and protect materials that would otherwise decay. Small bones from lizards or rodents that might wander into the cave and perish can be preserved within the guano matrix. Even more delicate materials can be safeguarded from microbial decay in this unique chemical environment. This means the guano piles are not just a record of what the bats ate, but can also contain and protect a wider snapshot of the cave's biological inhabitants. So, while they flutter in the darkness largely unseen, bats are active and vital archivists. Their daily lives contribute a constant stream of data to the cave floor, layering information about their own populations, their diets, the insects they consume, and the plants those insects relied upon. They connect the dark, hidden world of the cave directly to the vibrant, changing world above, making them indispensable partners in piecing together the complex and interconnected puzzle of our planet's past. For centuries, the only way to truly know a cave was to physically enter it, a dangerous and disruptive process that risked both the explorer and the very environment they sought to understand. Today, we stand at the dawn of a new era in speleology, one where technology acts as our eyes, ears, and hands in the deepest, most fragile recesses of the underground world. The first revolutionary step happens before a researcher even sets foot inside, with advanced remote sensing technologies that can virtually peel back the layers of the Earth. Light detection and ranging, or LiDAR, systems mounted on aircraft or drones send millions of laser pulses downward. By measuring the time it takes for each pulse to bounce back, they can create a fantastically detailed three-dimensional map of the ground surface, revealing subtle depressions, sinkholes, and even the faint outlines of cave entrances completely hidden by dense forest canopy. This allows scientists to pinpoint promising sites for exploration across vast, inaccessible landscapes without ever disturbing a single leaf. Once a potential cave is located, the next tool comes into play: ground-penetrating radar. This device sends radio waves into the Earth and listens for the echoes that bounce back from changes in subsurface density. Where LiDAR maps the surface, GPR allows us to see into the rock itself, revealing the hidden architecture of passages and chambers behind solid walls or buried under layers of sediment. It can identify large voids, sediment-filled tunnels, and even the depth of floor deposits, creating a detailed blueprint of the cave system. This is invaluable for planning safe entry routes, understanding the cave's hydrological history, and identifying the most scientifically promising areas to target for excavation, all while leaving the pristine cave environment completely untouched until the moment it is absolutely necessary to enter. The moment of entry, however, is where another suite of technological marvels comes to the fore, fundamentally changing how we handle the precious archives within. The greatest threat to ancient DNA analysis has always been contamination from modern sources. A single skin cell from a researcher's hand, a breath, or a stray hair could ruin a sample that has been perfectly preserved for 50,000 years. This is now being circumvented by portable, handheld DNA sequencers. Imagine a scientist in a bulky, sterile suit, carefully collecting a pinch of sediment and feeding it into a device no larger than a smartphone. Within hours, right there in the cave's antechamber, they can get a preliminary readout of the genetic material present, confirming they have found a rich layer before even packing the sample for full analysis back at the lab. This immediate feedback prevents wasted effort on barren sections and, most importantly, drastically reduces the risk of contaminating the sample during transport and handling. Alongside these genetic tools, portable mass spectrometers bring the power of chemical analysis directly to the field. A researcher can hold a laser scanner over a stalagmite and, without taking a single core, get an instant read on the ratios of key elements and isotopes within its layers. This provides immediate clues about past climate conditions, helping to decide which formations are the most critical to sample for a detailed climate record. This on-the-spot analysis allows for real-time, in-situ decision-making, turning the cave itself into an open-air laboratory and ensuring that the most valuable and delicate sampling is performed with the utmost precision and purpose. For the most dangerous and inaccessible parts of a cave, the vertical shafts that drop into absolute darkness, the passages barely wide enough to squeeze through, or the unstable chambers threatening collapse technology provides a fearless proxy: robots and drones. Small, agile drones equipped with high-resolution cameras and LiDAR scanners can now fly autonomously through vast, complex cave networks, mapping every nook and cranny in stunning detail and creating immersive 3D models that researchers can explore virtually from the safety of their desks. Meanwhile, rugged, tethered robots can be lowered into treacherous pits to collect sediment samples or water from underground lakes, going places no human safely can. These mechanical explorers are not just about safety. They grant us access to chambers that have been completely sealed off for millennia, time capsules within time capsules that may hold the purest, most uncontaminated records yet discovered. Together, these innovations are doing more than just making old processes easier. They are fundamentally accelerating the pace of discovery and reshaping our interpretations of the past. What once took decades of careful excavation and lab work can now be achieved in a fraction of the time, with far greater accuracy and context. Technology is acting as a master key, unlocking deeper layers of the cave archives than we ever thought possible, and allowing us to read the intertwined stories of rock, life, and climate with a clarity that would have been pure fantasy just a generation ago. These magnificent cave formations, the stalactites hanging from the ceiling like stone icicles, and the stalagmites rising from the floor to meet them, are far more than just geological decorations. Known collectively as speleothams, they are, in fact, some of the planet's most patient and precise historians. Their entire existence begins with a single drop of water. As rainwater seeps through the soil and bedrock above the cave, it becomes slightly acidic, absorbing carbon dioxide from the air and soil and dissolving tiny amounts of the mineral calcite from the limestone it passes through. When this mineral-rich water finally reaches the open space of a cave, it hangs for a moment on the ceiling before falling, and in that moment, a tiny fraction of the dissolved calcite is left behind, crystallizing into a solid ring. This process repeats itself drop by drop, over centuries and millennia, slowly building these incredible structures from the ceiling down, and from the floor up at a rate so slow it's almost unimaginable, sometimes taking over a century to add just a single centimeter of length. What makes speleothams such unparalleled climate archives is that each of those countless drops of water acts as a tiny messenger, carrying a chemical snapshot of the world above at the exact moment it fell. The water doesn't just carry calcite, it also holds dissolved gases and trace elements from the atmosphere and soil, and its very atomic structure is imprinted with the environmental conditions of its time. The most powerful clues are locked in the ratios of different types of atoms, called isotopes, within the calcite itself. Oxygen, for example, has a heavier version, oxygen 18, and a lighter one, oxygen 16. The proportion of these two isotopes in rainwater is highly sensitive to temperature. During a warm period, more of the lighter oxygen 16 evaporates from the ocean and falls as rain, and this signal is faithfully recorded in the speliotham layer formed from that water. During a cold glacial period, the ratio shifts dramatically toward the heavier oxygen 18. By meticulously drilling tiny samples along the entire growth axis of a stalagmite and analyzing these ratios, scientists can effectively read a continuous thermometer record stretching back hundreds of thousands of years. Carbon isotopes tell a parallel story, but one focused on the biological activity on the surface above the cave. As water percolates through the soil, it picks up carbon dissolved from plant roots, decaying organic matter, and the very atmosphere of the soil. Different types of vegetation process carbon in unique ways. Dense forests, open grasslands, and dry shrublands all leave distinct isotopic fingerprints in the water that eventually drips into the cave. A significant shift in the carbon ratio within a specific layer of a stalagmite can signal a major ecological transformation overhead. Perhaps a forest gave way to grasslands due to a prolonged drought, or vegetation rebounded dramatically after a volcanic winter. When combined, the oxygen and carbon isotope records provide a powerful dual narrative, one of the physical climate conditions like temperature, and the other of the biological world's response to those changes. Of course, a detailed climate record is useless without an exact calendar. This is where another revolutionary technique comes into play: uranium-thorium dating. As the speliotham grows, it incorporates tiny, almost negligible amounts of uranium from the seepage water into its crystal structure. Uranium is radioactive and decays into thorium at a known constant rate. Unlike uranium, thorium does not dissolve easily in water, so virtually all the thorium found in a speliotham layer comes from the decay of the uranium trapped there when that layer formed. By precisely measuring the ratio of uranium to thorium in a microscopic sample from a specific growth band, scientists can calculate its absolute age with astonishing accuracy, often to within just a few decades for a sample that is 100,000 years old. This provides a reliable, high-resolution timeline, assigning a precise date to every single climatic event and environmental shift recorded in the isotopes. This combination of chemical detail and precise dating makes speleothams one of the most trusted and continuous paleoclimate archives available. Unlike ice cores, which are limited to polar and high-altitude regions, or tree rings, which only span a few thousand years, speleothams are found on every continent except Antarctica and can provide continuous records that span several ice age cycles. They fill critical gaps in our understanding, offering climate data for regions and time periods where other proxies are absent or fragmented. The stories they tell of monsoon failures that toppled empires, of sudden cold snaps that challenged early humans, of slow warming trends that reshaped continents, are not just fascinating history. They provide the essential long-term context for our current changing climate, offering a vital baseline against which to measure our modern world and helping us refine the models that predict our planetary future. Beyond the silent mineral records and ancient genetic whispers, caves harbor something even more astonishing: entire worlds of life that have evolved in complete isolation from the sun-drenched surface. These subterranean ecosystems are among the most extreme and alien environments on our planet, realms of perpetual darkness where the normal rules of life are rewritten. Here, in the absence of light, the very foundation of most food chains, photosynthesis, is impossible. This creates a world of profound scarcity, where every calorie of energy is precious, and the inhabitants have undergone radical transformations to survive in what seems, at first glance, to be an impossible place for life to thrive. The creatures that call these depths home are marvels of evolutionary adaptation, often found nowhere else on Earth. Over countless generations, natural selection has sculpted them into forms perfectly suited to their dark, nutrient-poor world. Perhaps the most striking adaptations are visual. Species like the Ohm, a pale, ghostly salamander that inhabits the caves of Europe, or the Mexican tetra, a blind cavefish, have completely lost their eyes. In an environment of absolute blackness, eyes are not just useless, they are a liability, vulnerable to infection and consuming precious energy for no benefit. Instead, these animals have honed other senses to an extraordinary degree. They navigate and hunt using incredibly sensitive lateral lines to detect the faintest water movements, or rely on enhanced senses of smell and taste, often with elaborate, whisker-like structures called barbels to feel their way through the darkness. Their bodies frequently lose all pigment, resulting in pale white or translucent appearances, since there is no need for camouflage or protection from the sun's ultraviolet rays. But the engine of this entire ecosystem often isn't driven by animals at all. It's powered by microbes in the deepest, most isolated chambers, where not even a trickle of organic matter from the surface reaches. Life finds another way. Chemosynthetic bacteria form the base of a truly independent food web. These incredible microorganisms don't need sunlight or organic food. They can create their own energy by processing inorganic chemicals seeping from the rock itself, such as sulfur compounds or hydrogen. They essentially eat the stone, and in doing so, they create microbial mats that other, slightly larger organisms can graze upon. This process is exactly what astrobiologists believe could support life on other planets, like in the subsurface oceans of Jupiter's moon Europa or the buried aquifers of Mars. Studying these caves is the closest we can come to exploring an alien ecosystem without leaving Earth. The story of how these ecosystems change over time is now being read through the lens of DNA. By analyzing the genetic material preserved in the layered sediments of cave pools and streams, scientists can track the population dynamics of these subterranean species across millennia. They can see how a species' genetic diversity shrank during a past ice age when the surface above was frozen and less nutrient-rich water seeped down, or how it expanded during a warmer, wetter period. This genetic record reveals that these seemingly isolated worlds are not entirely disconnected from the surface. They are deeply responsive to it. A change in climate above ground alters the quantity and quality of water filtering into the cave, which in turn dictates the amount of energy available, reshaping the entire subterranean food web from the bottom up. This fragile, intricate web of life, existing in a delicate balance with the world above, forms a critical and often overlooked part of the biological record preserved in caves. It's a living archive of evolution, showcasing the incredible plasticity of life and its relentless drive to persist against all odds. Every blind crayfish, every ghostly spider, and every sheet of bacteria feeding on rock is a testament to nature's ingenuity, offering profound insights into how life can adapt, specialize, and endure in the most unexpected corners of our planet and potentially beyond. For our ancient ancestors, a cave's entrance represented something far more profound than just a geological feature. It was a threshold between two worlds. On one side lay the exposed, unpredictable, and often dangerous outside a domain of predators, harsh weather, and the glaring sun. On the other side was the cave, a place of profound shelter, constant temperature, and protective darkness. This fundamental duality made caves not just convenient pit stops, but foundational settings in the human story. They were our first homes, our first temples, our first galleries, and our first tombs. The evidence they left behind forms a direct, tangible link to the minds and lives of people who walked the earth tens of thousands of years before the pyramids were built. Some of the most breathtaking and intimate messages from our deep past are not written in words, but in ochre and charcoal on limestone walls. The caves of Lascaux in France and Altamira in Spain are like the Sistine chapels of the Paleolithic world. Stepping into these chambers is an overwhelming experience. The walls explode with life. Herds of bison seem to gallop across the rock, woolly mammoths trumpet silently, and abstract patterns of dots and hand stencils hint at a symbolic language we are still struggling to decipher. These weren't mere doodles. The care, the perspective, the sheer artistic skill involved speaks to a complex cognitive world. They are thought to be part of ritualistic practices, perhaps acts of sympathetic magic to ensure a successful hunt or expressions of a deep, spiritual connection to the animals that sustain them. They offer a priceless glimpse into the early human mind, revealing a species that was not just surviving, but creating, believing, and seeking meaning. But the human story in caves is told through more than just art. The very floors we walk on are layered with the debris of daily life, each stratum an archaeological snapshot. A carefully excavated hearth, its stones blackened by ancient fire and surrounded by discarded bones, tells a story of a family group sharing a meal and finding warmth. A scatter of meticulously crafted flint tools, scrapers for preparing hides, sharp points for spears, reveals a sophisticated understanding of technology and resourcefulness. In deeper, more secluded chambers, the discovery of human remains arranged with care, sometimes accompanied by grave goods like beads or ochre, provides some of the earliest evidence we have for ritual burial and what appears to be a concept of an afterlife. These finds suggest complex social structures, empathy, and beliefs that extended beyond the immediate needs of survival. Now, with the power of modern genetics, we can read even the invisible stories written into these ancient bones. DNA extracted from human remains found in caves across the globe is dramatically rewriting the map of human migration. A single genome from a skeleton in a Siberian cave can reveal that individual's ancestry, showing deep links to populations in East Asia and Europe and tracing the epic journeys their ancestors made. It can reveal surprising interbreeding events like the Neanderthal DNA that still exists in many people today, proof that different human species once met, interacted, and had children. This genetic data helps us understand not just where humans went, but how diverse populations were, how they were related, and how their genetic diversity changed over time in response to environmental pressures and cultural shifts. Ultimately, this makes caves the most extraordinary dual archives on Earth. Within the same space, in the same layers of sediment, they preserve a continuous record of both the natural world and the human one. A single dig site might yield the bone of an extinct cave bare in one layer, and just above it, the tool that a human used to cut meat from its bones. We can see the climate changing through the chemistry of a stalagmite, and simultaneously see how a human culture adapted their tools and art in response to that change. They are places where the boundary between natural history and human history completely dissolves, showing us that our story is inextricably woven into the deeper story of the planet itself. They remind us that we have always been part of the environment, seeking shelter in its geology and leaving our dreams on its walls. Yet for all the incredible stories these caves hold, they are also places of immense fragility, where the very act of seeking answers can irrevocably damage the evidence we seek to understand. The single greatest challenge facing scientists who work with these ancient archives is the pervasive threat of contamination. Imagine spending years locating a perfect, sealed cave chamber, only to have the entire genetic record rendered useless because a single skin cell from a modern human, carried in on a breath, a piece of clothing, or a careless touch, settled into the sample. This isn't a theoretical risk. It is a constant, looming reality that dictates every single step of the research process, from the moment a cave is entered to the final analysis in a lab halfway around the world. The pursuit of the past is in many ways a battle against the present. To win this battle, researchers must essentially become astronauts of the deep, treating the cave environment with the same level of sterile caution as a space mission would treat another planet. Before even setting foot in a sensitive area, teams will don full-body sterile suits, multiple layers of gloves, face masks, and hairnets. They use breathing apparatuses or carefully directed ventilation to ensure their exhaled breath, which is teeming with modern microbes and human DNA, does not contaminate the air around the excavation site. The tools of the trade are no longer simple trowels and brushes. They are often sterilized in an autoclave or meticulously cleaned with bleach and UV light before use. In some of the most pristine caves, scientists will even set up positive pressure clean tents right inside the entrance chamber, creating a sterile bubble within the cave itself where they can process samples before they are ever exposed to the outside world. This meticulous care doesn't end when the samples are bagged and tagged. Their journey to the laboratory is a carefully choreographed logistical operation. Samples are sealed in multiple sterile containers to prevent any exchange with the modern environment during transport. Once they arrive at a dedicated ancient DNA facility, they enter a new level of quarantine. These labs are designed with a series of positive pressure clean rooms, where the air is constantly filtered to remove even the tiniest particles. Technicians working inside must shower and dress in full cleanroom suits, often referred to as bunny suits, and pass through air showers that blow any lingering contaminants off their clothing before they can handle the ancient material. Every surface is regularly swabbed and tested for modern DNA, and the entire workflow is designed to move in one direction only, from the cleanest areas where the ancient samples are processed toward the less clean areas, to ensure no modern DNA backtracking occurs. The reason for this almost paranoid level of caution is the incredible sensitivity of the technology itself. Next-generation sequencers are so powerful that they can amplify and read the genetic code from just a handful of molecules. This is what allows us to detect the DNA of a long-extinct bear from a pinch of dirt, but it also means the machine cannot tell the difference between an ancient molecule and a modern one that fell off someone's skin 5 minutes ago. A single fingerprint smudged on the outside of a sample tube could introduce enough contemporary human DNA to completely drown out the faint, ancient signal the researchers are desperately trying to isolate. The entire scientific narrative of a site, the story of which humans or animals were present and when, could be completely skewed by the invisible biological baggage of the very people trying to uncover it. This relentless focus on purity is what separates compelling discovery from scientific fallacy. Maintaining the absolute integrity of these samples is the non-negotiable foundation upon which all accurate interpretation is built. It is a painstaking, expensive, and time-consuming process, but it is the only way to ensure that the stories we are reading from these time capsules are the authentic whispers of the deep past, and not just the accidental echo of our own modern presence. This delicate work of extracting history from caves is not done in a vacuum. It exists within a complex web of ethical responsibilities that extend far beyond the scientific community. These hidden worlds are not just inert research sites, they are living, breathing ecosystems teeming with specialized life, and they are often places of deep cultural and spiritual significance. Recognizing this, the modern speleologist operates under a strict and thoughtful framework of ethical guidelines designed to ensure that the quest for knowledge does not come at the cost of permanent damage or disrespect. The very first rule and the foundation of all responsible research is the requirement for official permits. Collecting even a handful of sediment or a small core from a speleothem is never a simple act of taking. It is a regulated process governed by government agencies and conservation bodies who evaluate the potential impact of the research against the value of the find. This system ensures that sampling is not done indiscriminately, but is focused, justified, and minimal, preserving as much of the cave's pristine state as possible for future generations of both scientists and creatures. The principle of minimize disturbance guides every physical movement within the cave. Researchers are trained to move with the lightest possible touch, following established pathways to avoid crushing fragile formations or unique habitats underfoot. Ropes are carefully placed to avoid abrasion on delicate rock surfaces, and lighting is used judiciously to prevent promoting the growth of light-loving algae that can smother ancient formations. The focus is always on non-invasive methods first. Why take a physical sample if a three-dimensional laser scan can capture the same detail? Why excavate a large area if a tiny, strategically placed sediment core can answer the question? This mindfulness extends to the cave's inhabitants. Work is often scheduled to avoid critical times, like the hibernation season for bats or the breeding period for rare cave invertebrates, ensuring that the scientific process does not disrupt the very life cycles it aims to study. Perhaps the most profound ethical evolution in recent years is the move towards genuine collaboration with local and indigenous communities. For generations, scientific expeditions would arrive, extract knowledge and artifacts, and depart, with the local people never hearing about the findings or benefiting from the research. Today, that colonial model is rightly being replaced by one of partnership and respect. Many caves are situated on ancestral lands and are woven into the cultural fabric of indigenous creation stories, oral histories, and spiritual practices. Ethical research now begins with conversations, not permits. It involves seeking permission and guidance from tribal elders and community leaders, listening to their knowledge of the land and the significance of the place, and often incorporating their perspectives into the research questions themselves. This collaboration ensures that the work is conducted in a way that honors rather than violates cultural heritage. This shift towards openness also includes a commitment to sharing the discoveries with everyone. Findings are no longer locked away in paywalled academic journals. They are actively brought back to the public through museum exhibits, community lectures, school programs, and of course, documentaries like this one. This transparency is a powerful tool for conservation. When people understand the incredible stories hidden beneath their feet, the ancient climates, the extinct creatures, the footsteps of their ancestors, they become invested in protecting these places. It transforms caves from abstract holes in the ground into recognized libraries of natural and human history, fostering a sense of shared stewardship that is far more effective than any keep out sign. Ultimately, the core ethical challenge is finding a sustainable balance. It is the balance between the undeniable human drive to explore and understand our world and the solemn responsibility to preserve it intact. Every sample taken is a tiny, permanent alteration. The goal of modern cave ethics is to ensure that the value of the knowledge gained is always proportional to that small loss, and that the process of gaining it is conducted with humility, respect, and a view towards the very long term. It is about ensuring that these irreplaceable time capsules remain as full and as vibrant for the scientists of the next century as they are for us today. Looking ahead, the field of cave studies is poised for a transformation that feels almost like science fiction, moving from isolated discoveries to a grand, interconnected synthesis of Earth's story. The most exciting shift will be the move away from studying each archive in isolation, the DNA here, the stalagmites there, and toward what scientists call multi-proxy analysis. Imagine pulling a single core of sediment from a cave floor and being able to read it like a multi-layered historical novel. One chapter is written in the ancient pollen grains, telling you what plants were outside. The next is in the isotopes from minuscule water droplets, revealing the exact temperature and rainfall. Flipping the page, you find fragments of genetic material, identifying every animal that walked through the area, and finally, a layer of volcanic ash that gives the entire story an exact publication date. By weaving these different data streams together, researchers won't just have a list of events. They'll be able to build holistic, three-dimensional models of entire ancient ecosystems, understanding not just what happened, but how every element, climate, plants, animals, and humans interacted and influenced each other over millennia. The sheer volume of data this approach generates is so colossal that it demands a new kind of collaborator, artificial intelligence. A single cave can produce terabytes of genetic sequences, thousands of high-resolution mineral scans, and countless microscopic images of dust particles. It's an amount of information that would take a human researcher a lifetime to sift through. This is where machine learning algorithms come in, acting as digital detectives that can spot patterns and correlations invisible to the naked eye. An AI could be trained to scan through climate data from a stalagmite and genetic data from the same cave's sediment, instantly flagging that a specific genetic disappearance of a prey species occurred exactly 50 years after a sharp shift in rainfall patterns hinted at a prolonged drought. These aren't just simple connections. AI could uncover complex, non-obvious relationships, perhaps revealing how subtle changes in atmospheric dust from a distant volcanic eruption triggered a cascade of effects that led to a shift in human hunting strategies hundreds of miles away. This powerful partnership between human curiosity and machine intelligence will undoubtedly reveal hidden chapters in our planet's history that we didn't even know to look for. This quest for deeper time is also pushing explorers toward entirely new frontiers, most notably the vast, silent world of underwater caves. Submerged caverns like those in the Yucatan Peninsula or beneath the Mediterranean Sea have been protected from surface-level erosion and human disturbance for far longer than their terrestrial counterparts. Many were dry land during the last ice age, when sea levels were significantly lower, and as the glaciers melted, they were flooded and sealed shut, creating pristine time capsules from a world that has literally been drowned by time. The technical challenges of exploring these environments are immense, requiring advanced diving skills and remotely operated vehicles. But the potential reward is access to archives that could be millions of years old, potentially holding clues to much older climate cycles and even unknown branches of the evolutionary tree. Similarly, caves in extreme environments like the Arctic, sealed within permafrost, or deep within arid deserts, offer the promise of unparalleled preservation, where the cold and the dryness may have kept organic materials intact for exponentially longer periods. But this revolution won't be confined to university labs and high-tech expeditions. A powerful and growing movement is looking to democratize this discovery through citizen science projects. Imagine an app where a dedicated caver on a recreational trip can upload photographs of a cave wall, and image recognition software scans it for patterns that might indicate previously unnoticed fossil layers or unique mineral formations. Or consider programs where local communities are given simple kits to monitor cave temperature and humidity over time, contributing to a global database that tracks the impact of modern climate change on these fragile environments. These initiatives do more than just gather data. They forge a vital connection between the public and these hidden wonders, transforming people from passive observers into active stewards. This grassroots engagement is crucial for conservation, building a broad coalition of advocates who understand the irreplaceable value of what lies beneath our feet and will fight to protect it. The overarching feeling in the scientific community is one of vast, untapped potential. Every technological leap, from more sensitive DNA sequencers to more agile underwater drones, is like adding a new, more powerful lens to our microscope, allowing us to see the past with ever-increasing clarity. The methodologies are evolving from brute force excavation to a subtle, forensic touch, minimizing our impact while maximizing our understanding. We are moving from simply finding things to truly comprehending the intricate web of life and climate that has shaped our world. The next decade of cave research promises to be less about isolated facts and more about weaving a continuous, rich narrative of Earth's history, revealing not just the story of the planet, but our own profound and ancient place within it. This powerful convergence of different scientific fields working together is what truly unlocks the deepest secrets held within these subterranean vaults. The most profound discoveries are no longer happening within the isolated silos of a single discipline. They are emerging from the vibrant intersections where geology, biology, and archaeology meet. A geologist might meticulously map the layers of sediment on a cave floor, establishing a reliable timeline based on mineral deposits. An archaeologist then excavates a stone tool from a specific, dated layer. But it's the geneticist extracting ancient DNA from the soil around that very same tool, who can then identify the species of animal that tool was used to butcher, and perhaps even detect the genetic signature of the human who crafted it. This isn't just adding pieces to a puzzle, it's showing us how the pieces are fundamentally connected, creating a rich, multi-dimensional narrative instead of a flat, one-dimensional fact. Consider the powerful synergy between cutting-edge genetics and precise geological dating. A paleontologist might find a single, enigmatic bone fragment from an unknown species deep within a cave. For decades, that fossil might have been a mystery, its place in the evolutionary tree a subject of pure speculation. But now, we can sequence the ancient DNA from that bone and compare it to a global genetic database, instantly revealing its closest living relatives and its precise branch on the tree of life. Then, by using advanced dating techniques like uranium-thorium dating on the flowstone layer that encased the bone, the geologist can assign an exact age to that fossil. This combination doesn't just tell us what the animal was, it tells us when it lived, and by comparing it to other dated finds, we can trace its migration across continents and understand the environmental pressures that shaped its evolution. This fusion of biology and geology turns a solitary fossil into a vibrant character in the ongoing story of life on Earth. The same interdisciplinary magic breathes life into our understanding of human history. An archaeologist carefully uncovers the remnants of an ancient hearth, a circle of blackened stones and charred bones that marks a campsite used by early humans. This finding is fascinating on its own, but its true significance is unlocked through collaboration. A climatologist analyzes a stalagmite from the same cave, and its chemical isotopes reveal that this period was one of intense drought and bitter cold. Suddenly, that hearth isn't just a simple cooking fire. It becomes a testament to human resilience, a story of a community huddled together for warmth and survival during a prolonged climate catastrophe. The animal bones found around that hearth, when analyzed by a zooarchaeologist, might show a shift from hunting large game to processing smaller, quicker prey, indicating a clever adaptation to scarce resources. This is no longer just archaeology. It's a deeply human story of adaptation and ingenuity, made possible by weaving together clues from the earth, the climate, and the artifacts. This integrated approach is the only way to build a truly holistic understanding of our planet's complex history. A biologist studying pollen in cave sediments can identify when a certain type of grass became dominant, but it takes a geologist to correlate that change with a shift in rainfall patterns recorded in nearby stalagmites, and an archaeologist to link both events to a change in the design of hunting tools, suggesting a shift in prey. Each discipline provides a single thread, but when woven together, they form a strong and intricate rope that can pull us deeper into the past than ever before. This collaboration enriches every field involved. The geologist's timeline gives context to the biologist's fossil. The archaeologist's artifact gives a human face to the climatologist's data, and together they create a far more complete and compelling picture of the past than any one of them could alone. Ultimately, this spirit of collaboration is essential for unlocking the full, magnificent potential of these underground archives. The cave itself does not separate its treasures by academic department. It preserves them all together in a beautiful, chaotic jumble. To honor that complexity, our methods of investigation must be equally interconnected. The future of discovery lies not in solitary experts working in isolation, but in diverse teams of scientists sharing data, challenging each other's assumptions, and speaking a common language of curiosity. By breaking down the walls between disciplines, we are finally able to read the cave's grand, unified narrative as it was always meant to be read, as a single, incredible story of a changing planet and all the life, including our own, that has called it home. While we rely on caves to teach us about Earth's climatic past, these very sanctuaries are now facing an existential threat from the changes occurring in our modern world. The same delicate balance of temperature and humidity that has preserved history for millennia is being disrupted by the profound impacts of contemporary climate change, putting these irreplaceable archives at risk of being lost forever. It's a cruel irony that the very records we need to understand climate change are now endangered by it. The stable, cool environments that have acted as natural museums are becoming increasingly unstable, jeopardizing everything from ancient DNA to the mineral formations that hold our planet's history. One of the most immediate dangers comes from shifts in the water cycle, the very lifeblood of cave formation. As global temperatures rise, patterns of rainfall and evaporation change dramatically. In some regions, increased and more intense rainfall can lead to catastrophic flooding events that violently flush through cave systems. This torrential water doesn't just alter the landscape. It can scour away entire layers of sediment in a single event, erasing millennia of accumulated pollen, dust, and genetic material in a geological instant. In other areas, prolonged drought can have an equally devastating effect. When the steady drip of mineral-rich water that builds stalactites and stalagmites slows to a trickle or stops altogether, the growth of these climate-recording formations halts. Worse, a drop in humidity can cause existing formations to dry out, crack, and even crumble, destroying the intricate isotopic records locked within their crystalline structures. The threat extends to the most remote and frigid caves on the planet, where a different kind of time bomb is ticking. In the Arctic and high-altitude regions, many caves are anchored by permafrost, permanently frozen ground that has sealed in organic materials for tens of thousands of years. As the planet warms, this permafrost is melting at an alarming rate. For the caves held together by this icy cement, the thaw can lead to structural collapse, destabilizing entire passages and chambers. But the greater loss is to the organic treasures within. Artifacts made from wood, leather, and bone, along with the preserved remains of animals like mammoths and ice-age bears, have been kept in a deep freeze since they were deposited. As the permafrost melts, these materials are exposed to oxygen and microbes for the first time in millennia, leading to rapid and irreversible decay. We are in a desperate race against time to find and preserve these organic samples before they turn to dust, losing priceless genetic and cultural information. Human activity compounds these natural threats in countless ways. The expansion of agriculture and urbanization can alter the water table and increase pollution, introducing chemicals and nutrients into cave systems that disrupt their delicate ecological balance. Increased tourism, while raising awareness, brings its own set of problems. The mere breath of visitors can raise carbon dioxide levels and humidity, promoting the growth of destructive mold and algae on ancient cave art. Even well-intentioned scientific exploration must constantly evolve its protocols to minimize its footprint in these hypersensitive environments. The cumulative pressure from a changing climate and expanding human presence creates a perfect storm that threatens to silence these ancient narrators before we have fully heard their stories. This looming loss makes the work of conservation more urgent than ever. Protecting these caves is no longer just about roping off passages or limiting visitor numbers. It requires a global effort to understand and mitigate the specific impacts of climate change on each unique cave system. Scientists are now installing sophisticated networks of sensors to monitor real-time changes in temperature, humidity, carbon dioxide levels, and water flow in critical caves around the world. This data is essential for building predictive models that can tell us which caves are most vulnerable and what interventions might help, such as managing vegetation above a cave to regulate water seepage or installing artificial barriers to protect against flooding. International collaborations are forming to share these strategies and create a global early warning system for cave degradation. The profound tragedy and urgency of this situation is that the secrets we are losing could hold the key to our own future. The same stalagmites that are now at risk of crumbling have provided us with the most detailed records of how our planet's climate has behaved under stress in the past. They have shown us the true scale and speed of natural droughts, the instability of ice ages, and the resilience of ecosystems. This historical context is our single most valuable tool for predicting what might come next and how we might prepare. By threatening these caves, climate change isn't just erasing the past. It is blinding us to the lessons we desperately need to navigate the future. The fight to preserve these subterranean libraries is, therefore, a fight to preserve knowledge itself, ensuring that the deep-time wisdom captured in stone and sediment continues to guide humanity for generations to come. Recognizing the profound fragility of these underground libraries has sparked a global movement dedicated not just to studying them, but to actively safeguarding them for the future. This isn't a task for scientists alone. It requires a collective effort, a partnership between researchers, explorers, and the wider public. Leading the charge are organizations like the National Speleological Society, which for decades has served as a central hub for cave enthusiasts of all kinds, from professional geologists to weekend adventurers. Their mission extends far beyond simply organizing trips. They are fundamental in promoting a culture of conservation and responsible exploration. They establish rigorous guidelines for cavers, teaching techniques to minimize impact, such as avoiding touching delicate formations with bare hands, using clean gear to prevent the spread of contaminants between caves, and sticking to established paths to protect fragile floor sediments. This ethos transforms every caver from a mere visitor into a trained guardian of the underground world, instilling a sense of profound respect that is just as important as any rope or climbing technique. This vital educational mission powerfully expands beyond the caving community to capture the imagination of the next generation. Innovative school programs bring the wonder of caves directly into the classroom through interactive workshops, virtual reality cave tours, and hands-on activities where students can analyze mock sediment cores or learn how stalactites form. These programs demystify the science and make the abstract concept of deep time tangible and exciting, showing young minds that history isn't just found in textbooks but is also written in stone and soil. Similarly, world-class museum exhibits play a crucial role in translating complex cave research for a broad audience. Imagine walking through a life-sized replica of a famous cave, surrounded by the echoing drips of water, gazing up at meticulously crafted stalactites, and then seeing the actual fossils and tools discovered within that very environment, all contextualized with clear explanations of their significance. These immersive experiences don't just showcase artifacts, they tell a compelling story that connects the visitor emotionally to these hidden places, fostering a public that values and wants to protect these resources because they understand their irreplaceable worth. Perhaps one of the most effective and empowering conservation models is the growing network of Adopt a Cave initiatives. These programs operate on a powerfully simple principle. Local stewardship creates the most passionate and effective protectors. A local university speleology club, a high school science class, or a community hiking group can formally adopt a cave in their area. This adoption involves regular, scheduled monitoring trips where volunteers are trained to log specific data points, checking for signs of vandalism, monitoring gate integrity, documenting water levels and any unusual flooding debris, and observing the health of resident bat colonies or other cave life. This creates an early warning system that is both widespread and incredibly cost-effective, as countless eyes are watching over caves that professional scientists might only be able to visit once a year. The data collected by these dedicated volunteers provides an invaluable long-term record of the cave's health, helping to track the subtle impacts of climate change or human activity over time. More importantly, it forges a deep, personal connection between a community and a specific place, transforming abstract conservation into a tangible act of caring for a local treasure. The ultimate goal weaving through all these efforts, education, exhibits, and local action, is to ensure that the chapters of Earth's history continue to be written and preserved within these silent, dark chambers. Every layer of sediment left undisturbed, every ancient DNA sample kept free from contamination, and every mineral formation allowed to grow unbroken represents a sentence, a paragraph, a volume of story that remains available for future scientists to read. The tools and technologies of tomorrow will undoubtedly be even more sophisticated than those we have today. By protecting the raw archive now, we are giving future generations the opportunity to ask questions we haven't even thought of yet, and to discover answers that could be crucial for their survival and understanding of the planet. This forward-thinking perspective is what separates mere use from true preservation. Ultimately, this multifaceted work underscores a profound truth. Education is the most powerful conservation tool we possess. Laws can be repealed and fences can be cut, but a deeply ingrained public ethic of respect and stewardship is far more enduring. By illuminating the hidden value of these places, by sharing the breathtaking stories they contain, and by giving people a direct role in their protection, we build a lasting constituency for caves. We create a world where people see a cave not as a dark hole to be exploited or feared, but as a sacred library, a natural museum, and an irreplaceable source of wonder that belongs to all of humanity and to the future itself. This shift in perception, nurtured through continuous outreach and engagement, is the strongest guarantee that these caverns that capture time will continue to do their silent work for millennia to come. While the story of life on Earth is one of constant change and adaptation, the fossil record is also punctuated by moments of catastrophic loss, mass extinction events that have reshaped the planet's biological fabric. Caves have emerged as one of our most critical archives for understanding these dramatic chapters, particularly the most recent wave of disappearances that occurred during the Quaternary period, a time when giants like the woolly mammoth, the saber-toothed cat, and the giant ground sloth vanished from the landscape. The quiet, layered sediments on a cave floor act as a meticulous courtroom stenographer, recording not just the final verdict of extinction, but often the long and complex trail of evidence that led to it. Within these sedimentary layers, the story of a species' decline is often written in two distinct types of evidence. The first is the traditional fossil record, actual bones and teeth that have been preserved in the cool, stable cave environment. By tracking the abundance of these fossils through different layers, scientists can see a population's rise and fall. A thick layer rich with mammoth bones might suddenly give way to a layer with just a few scattered fragments, and then, finally, to a layer where they are completely absent. This provides a rough timeline for the extinction event, but the second, more recent form of evidence is even more powerful: ancient DNA. By extracting and sequencing genetic material from the soil itself, researchers can detect the presence of a species even in layers where no physical fossils remain, allowing them to pinpoint its disappearance with astonishing precision and identify the very last populations that clung to survival. This rich data allows scientists to act as forensic detectives for the planet, building a case for what caused these megafauna extinctions. The evidence points to a potent and intertwined mix of culprits. Climate change was a major driver. The end of the last ice age brought about rapid warming and shifting weather patterns that altered vegetation and destroyed the large, open grasslands many of these giants depended on. But caves also preserve compelling evidence of another factor: the arrival and expansion of humans. In layers corresponding to the time of extinction, archaeologists often find a sudden appearance of sophisticated stone spear points and tools, alongside bones of megafauna that show clear-cut marks from butchering. The DNA record adds another layer, showing that human populations were expanding at the exact same time that the genetic diversity of many large animal species was crashing, suggesting that a combination of hunting pressure and habitat disruption pushed these vulnerable populations over the edge. The true power of this research comes from comparing records across continents. Caves in North America tell a story of a wave of extinctions that closely followed the arrival of humans across the Bering Land Bridge. In Australia, cave sediments document the disappearance of massive marsupials like diprotodons shortly after humans first set foot on the continent. Meanwhile, caves in Europe and Asia show a more staggered pattern of decline, where species like the woolly rhinoceros struggled through multiple climate cycles before finally succumbing after the arrival of modern humans. By stitching together these local stories from caves around the world, a clear global pattern emerges. While climate change created stress and shrank habitats, it was often the arrival of a new, highly efficient predator, humans, that provided the final, fatal blow to ecosystems already under pressure. These insights from the deep past are not merely academic. They carry urgent lessons for the biodiversity crisis we face today. The same patterns observed in cave sediments, habitat loss, climate change, and human exploitation, are the very same forces driving modern species toward extinction. Understanding how these factors interacted to wipe out the mammoths and mastodons helps conservationists predict which species are most at risk now and design more effective strategies to protect them. If we know that a species has very low genetic diversity, a signal often pulled from ancient DNA in caves, we understand it may be less resilient to new diseases or environmental shifts. If we see that past extinctions often followed the fragmentation of a large habitat, it underscores the critical importance of creating wildlife corridors and protecting large, connected ecosystems today. Caves provide the long-term context that shows extinction is rarely a simple event, but a process, and by recognizing the early warning signs of that process, we might just have time to stop it. Long before scientists arrived with their drills and sequencers, caves had already captured the deepest reaches of the human imagination. Across every continent and culture, these dark openings in the earth have been far more than simple geological features. They have served as powerful canvases onto which we have projected our greatest fears, our spiritual longings, and our most fundamental questions about existence. They are universally recognized as liminal spaces, thresholds between the world we know and the worlds we can only wonder about. In countless mythologies, the cave entrance is the ultimate portal, a gateway to the underworld, a passage to the realm of the gods, or a sacred womb from which the first people emerged at the dawn of time. This shared cultural intuition speaks to something primal within us, a recognition that within that darkness lies a mystery that is both terrifying and profoundly alluring. One of the most enduring and philosophically rich explorations of this idea comes from the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. In his famous allegory of the cave, he doesn't use the cave as a physical place to be explored, but as a powerful metaphor for the human condition itself. He asks us to imagine people who have been chained since birth deep inside a cavern, facing a blank wall. Behind them, a fire burns, and between the fire and the prisoners, people carry objects that cast shadows onto the wall. For these prisoners, these shadows are the only reality they have ever known. Plato's point is that we are all like those prisoners. We mistake the shadows of everyday existence, the fleeting sensations and opinions, for ultimate truth. The difficult and often painful journey out of the cave and into the blinding sunlight represents the philosopher's path toward true knowledge and enlightenment. This story, written over 2,000 years ago, continues to resonate because it taps into that universal cave metaphor, a place of darkness, illusion, and confinement that we must courageously leave behind to discover a larger, truer reality. For indigenous cultures around the world, the connection to caves is not metaphorical but deeply literal and spiritual. Many creation stories are rooted in the sacred geography of specific caves. For the Navajo people of the American Southwest, for instance, their ancestors emerged into this world through a series of underworlds, finally arriving through a place known as the Fourth World, often associated with a specific geological opening. This makes caves a place of profound origin, a literal birthplace of a people. Similarly, in Australian Aboriginal traditions, certain caves are part of the dream time, the sacred era of creation. The walls of these caves are not just rock, they are the solidified bodies of ancestral beings, and the act of painting on those walls is a way of interacting with that creative power, of maintaining the songlines that hold the world together. In these contexts, a cave is a living church, a library of law and lore, and a direct connection to the ancestors. To enter one is to participate in a ritual that has sustained a culture for millennia. These powerful narratives do more than just add interesting footnotes to the scientific study of caves. They fundamentally enrich our understanding of their significance. A cave system can be mapped with LiDAR and its climate history decoded from stalagmites, but its full story is not complete without acknowledging its role as a sanctuary for rituals, a canvas for profound art, and a setting for stories that have guided human societies for generations. This cultural layer adds a profound depth of meaning, transforming a cave from a passive container of data into an active participant in the human story. It reminds us that our relationship with these places is not new. It is ancient, multifaceted, and deeply woven into our collective psyche. Exploring these legends creates a crucial bridge, connecting the analytical, evidence-based work of science with the intuitive, meaning-making work of the human spirit. It adds an essential layer of human connection to the physical mysteries of the underground. When we stand at the mouth of a great cave, we are not just standing at a site of potential discovery for paleoclimatology or genetics. We are also standing at the edge of the unknown, just as our ancestors did. We are feeling the same awe, the same trepidation, and the same compelling urge to venture into the darkness to see what it can teach us about the world, and perhaps even more importantly, about ourselves. This cultural and emotional dimension ensures that our fascination with these subterranean worlds will always be about more than just data. It will be about the timeless human quest for understanding, belonging, and wonder. This journey into the past, it turns out, is one of the most powerful tools we have for navigating the future. The secrets pulled from caves aren't just fascinating history. They are actively being translated into real-world solutions that address some of the most pressing challenges in modern science and technology. The first and perhaps most critical application is in the urgent fight against climate change. Our most sophisticated computer models, which we rely on to predict future warming, sea level rise, and extreme weather, need to be tested and refined. They require validation against real historical data to ensure they're accurately simulating the complex mechanics of our planet's systems. This is where the high-resolution climate records from stalagmites become absolutely indispensable. By providing an exquisitely detailed timeline of past temperatures, rainfall patterns, and atmospheric conditions, these speleothams act as a report card for our climate models. If a model can accurately predict the drought that collapsed the Mayan civilization or the monsoon failures recorded in a Borneo stalagmite, events that happened centuries ago, we can have far greater confidence in its projections for the next century. This isn't just about improving abstract simulations. It's about giving policymakers and communities the most reliable information possible to prepare for and adapt to what's coming. From building more resilient infrastructure to managing water resources in a warming world. The same ancient DNA that helps us understand past extinctions is now front and center in the effort to prevent future ones. The field of conservation genetics uses this deep time perspective to set crucial baselines for biodiversity. By sequencing the DNA of species from centuries ago before widespread human impact, scientists can measure the true extent of genetic diversity that has been lost in modern populations. This is vital because genetic diversity is a population's raw material for adaptation. It's what allows a species to survive new diseases or shifting climates. For instance, understanding the historic genetic diversity of the American chestnut tree, a species nearly wiped out by blight, is directly informing modern breeding programs aimed at restoring a blight-resistant version to its native forests. This work even extends to the controversial but scientifically compelling realm of de-extinction. Projects aimed at bringing back species like the woolly mammoth aren't just about the spectacle of seeing a lost giant. They are serious investigations into whether reintroducing such ecosystem engineers could help restore the Arctic permafrost grasslands, a crucial carbon sink. The entire genetic blueprint for these ambitious projects comes from DNA preserved in permafrost caves and sediments, making this futuristic endeavor entirely dependent on the archives of the deep past. Perhaps one of the most unexpected applications comes from the very formations that decorate these underground chambers. Materials scientists are looking at how stalactites and stalagmites form through the slow, precise deposition of mineral-rich water and are asking if we can mimic that process. This has led to groundbreaking innovations in self-healing materials, most notably concrete. Concrete is the most widely used human-made material on Earth, but it's also prone to cracking, which leads to costly repairs and premature failure. Inspired by the way calcite naturally precipitates out of water to repair tiny fractures in cave formations, researchers have developed self-healing concrete that contains limestone-producing bacteria or special microcapsules that release a healing agent when a crack forms. This bioconcrete can essentially heal its own cracks, dramatically extending its lifespan and reducing the massive environmental footprint of cement production. The humble drip of cave water has thus inspired a materials revolution that could make our infrastructure safer, more durable, and more sustainable. Finally, the extreme and resource-poor environment of caves has forced the organisms that live there to evolve remarkable biochemical survival strategies. In the perpetual darkness where competition for scarce nutrients is fierce, many cave-dwelling bacteria and fungi have become master chemists, producing a unique arsenal of antimicrobial and antifungal compounds to defend themselves. Pharmaceutical researchers are now bioprospecting in these subterranean ecosystems, discovering novel bioactive molecules that are unlike anything found on the surface. These compounds are showing promise in early trials for fighting antibiotic-resistant superbugs, a looming global health crisis, and for developing new cancer-fighting drugs. The same darkness that once hid these caves from the world is now revealing itself as a potential treasure trove for 21st century medicine, proving that the solutions to our most modern problems can often be found in the most ancient of places. Venturing into the depths of the earth is a pursuit that demands far more than mere courage. It is a discipline that blends the precision of science with the artistry of exploration. This is the world of speleology, a field where every move is calculated, every piece of equipment is purpose-built, and every skill is honed to ensure that the delicate environments being studied remain as pristine as they were found. The modern cave researcher is part scientist, part mountaineer, and part cartographer, wielding a diverse toolkit designed to minimize their impact while maximizing their understanding. The goal is not to conquer the darkness, but to converse with it respectfully, to listen to its secrets without leaving an echo of your own presence behind. The journey often begins with a sheer vertical drop, a black void where the cave floor is nowhere in sight. To navigate these daunting pitches, speleologists rely on a technique known as single rope technique, or SRT. This isn't your typical rock climbing. It's a specialized system of ascending and descending long, free-hanging ropes using a complex arrangement of harnesses, ascenders, descenders, and safety tethers. Mastering SRT is a fundamental rite of passage. It requires practiced fluid movements, a controlled slide into the abyss using a brake bar rack, or a rhythmic inch-by-inch ascent out of it with hand-held ascenders. This skill provides the key to the kingdom, granting access to vast, multi-level cave systems and deep, isolated chambers that have been sealed away from the surface world for millennia. But it's performed with a constant awareness of the fragile walls, ensuring that boots and gear never kick or scrape against ancient formations that have taken centuries to grow. Once on a new, unexplored level, the work of documentation begins immediately. This is no simple sketch on a notepad. Modern cave mapping is a meticulous process of creating a highly accurate, three-dimensional line plot of the entire subterranean network. Teams work together with one person acting as the surveyor, using a laser distometer to measure the distance, compass bearing, and inclination to the next station point, while another records the data and a third scouts the path ahead. Each measurement is a connected dot, and thousands of these dots gradually form a precise line map that reveals the cave's true scale and complexity. This map is the essential framework upon which all other scientific data is hung, allowing researchers to pinpoint the exact location of a water sample, a fossil find, or a unique mineral deposit within the labyrinth. The visual record is just as crucial. High-resolution photography, often using carefully positioned off-camera flashes to illuminate vast chambers without casting harsh shadows, captures the breathtaking beauty and scientific details of formations. But the real revolution in visualization has come from photogrammetry and LiDAR scanning. Researchers can now set up a laser scanner on a tripod. It spins silently, emitting millions of laser points that bounce off every surface in the chamber and return to the sensor, building a breathtakingly detailed cloud of points. This data is then processed into a perfect, photorealistic 3D model of the cave. Scientists and even the public can then take a virtual reality tour of a cavern from the other side of the world, examining a stalactite from every angle, taking digital measurements, and even flying through passages too tight for a human to enter. This technology is a game changer for preservation, allowing for endless study without any physical intrusion whatsoever. Yet, all the technical skill in the world is meaningless without the scientific knowledge to know what to look for. This is why rigorous training in geology and biology is non-negotiable. A geologist's trained eye can read the story in the rock. They can identify a layer of clay that indicates an ancient flood, recognize the specific crystal structure of a rare mineral, or understand how the angle of a stalagmite's growth bands points to a long-term shift in water flow. Similarly, a biologist knows to carefully swab the surface of a mysterious, gelatinous biofilm for DNA analysis, or to spot the nearly invisible thread of a cave-adapted spider's web. They know how to collect a soil sample without contaminating it with modern bacteria, preserving its ancient microbial secrets. This academic grounding transforms an explorer from a simple tourist of the underground into a true field scientist, capable of making critical observations and collecting samples that will yield valid, groundbreaking data back in the laboratory. Ultimately, this intricate dance of skill and science, the graceful descent on a rope, the patient gathering of measurements, the silent capture of light, is what makes the modern discovery of caves possible. It is a discipline built on respect for the inherent danger of the environment, for the fragility of its formations, and for the priceless, irreplaceable history it protects. Mastering this unique blend of techniques is the essential first step in a much longer process, the only way to truly earn the right to uncover the profound secrets these caverns have guarded for so long. While the principles of cave preservation are universal, the planet's most profound archives are not scattered randomly. They are concentrated in specific, extraordinary regions where a perfect storm of geology, climate, and time has created the ultimate time capsules. These global hotspots are the crown jewels of subterranean research, each one offering a unique and irreplaceable window into a different chapter of Earth's story. To understand the full scope of what caves can teach us, we must take a world tour, visiting the remote and breathtaking locations where the secrets of the deep past are most vividly preserved. Our first stop is the karst landscapes of Slovenia, a small European nation that is often called the birthplace of modern speleology. The very word karst comes from the Slovenian word kroz, denoting a region of porous limestone bedrock that has been dramatically sculpted by water. Here, caves aren't rare wonders, they are the defining feature of the landscape. The Postogena cave system and the UNESCO-listed Skokjan caves are more than just tourist attractions. They are vast, multi-level labyrinths that have acted as natural sediment traps for over 1 million years. The stable, cool climate and complex hydrology of these caves have preserved a continuous record of European environmental change. Pollen sequences from Slovenian caves provide one of the most detailed accounts of how forests retreated and advanced with the ice ages, while bones of long-extinct creatures like the cave bear are found in such abundance that they have allowed scientists to reconstruct entire population dynamics and even aspects of their behavior and diet. A world away on the island of Madagascar, the caves tell a completely different but equally vital story. Isolated for 88 million years, Madagascar is a living laboratory of evolution, and its limestone caves are the secure filing cabinets for its unique biological history. The island's dramatic seasonal shifts between torrential rains and prolonged dry periods create ideal conditions for the formation of vast cave networks. Within these tropical caverns, the sediments are packed with the bones of Madagascar's bizarre and wonderful megafauna that have vanished since human arrival, like the elephant bird, a flightless giant standing over 3 meters tall, and the koala-like sloth lemurs. The DNA preserved in these bones is revolutionizing our understanding of how island evolution works, showing how species shrink and gigantify in isolation. Furthermore, the stalagmites here are chronicling the history of the Indian Ocean's monsoon patterns, helping climatologists understand the forces that drive rainfall variability across a huge portion of the globe, affecting millions of people today. Perhaps the most surreal and challenging cave archives are not on land at all, but hidden beneath the turquoise waters of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. This entire flat limestone platform was once a giant coral reef, and it is pockmarked with thousands of sinkholes known as cenotes, which are the entrances to a vast flooded labyrinth. These underwater caves were dry and accessible during the last ice age, when sea levels were much lower. As the glaciers melted, the ocean rose and flooded these chambers, sealing them in a perfect anaerobic environment devoid of light and oxygen, which dramatically slows decay. This makes them perhaps the most pristine preservation environments on Earth. Divers and robotic submersibles have discovered the complete skeletons of Ice Age animals like giant ground sloths and saber-toothed cats that fell in when the caves were dry. Most significantly, these caves have yielded some of the oldest and most complete human skeletons in the Americas, providing crucial clues about the earliest migration routes of humans into the continent. Chinese letter caves of Yucatan are a perfect example of how some of the most valuable archives are also the most difficult to access, requiring incredible technological ingenuity to unlock their secrets. The reason these specific hotspots yield such spectacular results isn't just luck. It's a direct result of their unique geological and climatic histories. Slovenia's karst formed under specific tectonic conditions that created massively thick limestone deposits. Madagascar's combination of ancient bedrock and dramatic climate extremes accelerated cave formation, while its isolation created a unique biological record to be preserved. The Yucatan's unique geology as a former seafloor and its history of being flooded and drained by changing sea levels created its singular underwater time capsules. The unique conditions in each location mean they capture different frequencies of Earth's history. Some are excellent for short-term, high-resolution records of the last few thousand years, while others offer blurrier but much longer narratives stretching back over 1,000,000 years. Recognizing the global importance of these sites, research has become a truly international endeavor. Major projects now involve consortiums of scientists from dozens of countries, pooling funding, expertise, and technology to tackle these challenging environments. A single expedition to a remote cave in Madagascar might include a French geochemist to study stalagmites, an American geneticist to extract ancient DNA, and a team of Malagasy archaeologists to interpret human artifacts, all working side by side with local guides. This collaborative model ensures that the most advanced techniques are applied to the richest archives and that the knowledge gained is shared across borders, building a truly global understanding of our past. It transforms cave exploration from a national pursuit into a unified human effort to read our planet's autobiography. Whether through virtual reality tours that let us swim through a cenote or breathtaking documentaries that bring the echoing chambers of Skokjan to our screens, experiencing these places even from afar drives home their significance. They are not just isolated natural wonders, they are individual nodes in a global network of scientific discovery. Each hotspot, with its distinct geological personality and historical specialty, contributes a unique piece to the grand puzzle. The climate data from Slovenia helps contextualize the animal extinctions in Madagascar, while the sea level records from Yucatan help us understand coastal migration patterns that affected the entire world. Together, they form a distributed planetary library, and we are only just beginning to check out its most fascinating volumes. And yet, for every secret these underground chambers have reluctantly surrendered, a dozen more remain locked away in the darkness, tantalizing hints of discoveries that could once again rewrite everything we think we know. The deeper we go, the more we realize that our understanding is merely a flashlight beam in a vast, unexplored cathedral. These caves guard their ultimate mysteries with a profound silence, and what they still hide is perhaps more fascinating than what they've already revealed. One of the most beguiling puzzles lies in the very minerals that form these subterranean wonders. In deep, isolated caves around the world, explorers have stumbled upon formations that defy all known geological explanations. There are delicate, curling helicites that twist and turn in seemingly impossible directions, ignoring the pull of gravity as they grow. There are strange, fluffy deposits of moon milk, a white, paste-like substance whose exact method of formation remains a subject of heated debate among geochemists. And then there are the truly bizarre, like the otherworldly sulfur crystals found in some volcanic caves, which form in environments so toxic and acidic that they challenge our very definition of where life can and cannot exist. Each of these peculiar formations is a natural experiment conducted over millennia, a recipe written in chemistry and time that we have not yet learned to fully read, holding clues to unique geological processes happening right under our feet. Perhaps the most electrifying mysteries are those written in the language of life itself. As scientists refine their techniques for sifting ancient DNA from cave dirt, they are increasingly finding genetic signatures that belong to no known organism. These are the biological ghosts, the unmistakable traces of creatures that have left no physical fossils behind. A soil sample might contain a unique string of genetic code that suggests a previously unknown species of hominin, a cousin to Neanderthals and Denisovans who walked the earth but has vanished from all known records. Other genetic fragments point to entire chapters of the animal kingdom that have been completely lost, species of megafauna or tiny, overlooked mammals that thrived and then went extinct without a trace, their entire existence now reduced to a few molecular sequences in a database. This is the ultimate tease of modern science, knowing that something was there, having its unique identifier, but having no idea what it looked like, how it behaved, or why it disappeared. These phantom DNA sequences are like finding a name in a historical ledger without a portrait or a story, a constant reminder that the tree of life has many more branches than we can currently see, and that some of them may have been snapped off and lost to time entirely. The potential for rewriting human history is particularly profound. The staggering discovery of Homo naledi in South Africa's rising star cave system, a species with a bizarre mix of primitive and advanced features, was a thunderous reminder that our family tree is far from complete. That find came from a single, explored chamber. What awaits in the hundreds of miles of connected, unexplored passages that branch off from it? Many experts believe it is only a matter of time before a cave yields the remains of another, entirely unknown human ancestor, a species that could fill a critical gap in our evolutionary journey or reveal a parallel path of intelligence that eventually dead-ended. Furthermore, caves may hold the material evidence of catastrophic events that shaped human destiny but left little trace on the surface. A layer of sediment rich in unusual isotopes could be the key to identifying a previously unknown volcanic super-eruption that plunged the world into a volcanic winter, causing widespread famine and migration. Evidence of a massive solar flare or a comet impact, events that are theorized to have occurred in our deep past, could be preserved in the magnetic particles or mineral layers of a sealed cave chamber, offering a definitive explanation for sudden, inexplicable shifts in the archaeological record. This relentless allure of the unknown is the engine that drives explorers to squeeze through impossibly tight passages and researchers to spend years analyzing a single gram of dirt. It is a powerful human compulsion to see what is around the next corner, to be the first to lay eyes on a chamber that has been sealed for 100,000 years. With every new cave system mapped using ground-penetrating radar, we see the tantalizing outlines of vast networks, their true extent still hidden, hinting at chambers of colossal size and passages that dive to depths we've never reached. These unexplored frontiers could contain anything: pristine ecosystems built around chemosynthetic bacteria, completely isolated from the surface and hosting life forms unlike any we have ever catalogued, or ancient galleries of rock art that depict rituals and animals from a time before memory, created by a culture that has left no other trace of its existence. Each sealed passage is an unopened book, a locked door to a room in the mansion of Earth's history that we didn't even know existed. This is the ultimate lesson that caves teach us with quiet, humble persistence, that no matter how much we learn, how advanced our technology becomes, or how many maps we draw, there is always more to discover. The Earth has not yet yielded all its secrets. The next great discovery that changes our understanding of climate, evolution, or our own origins might not be hidden in a lab or a satellite image, but in the cool, still darkness of a cave, waiting for the right moment, the right explorer, and the right question to be asked. It is a powerful antidote to arrogance, a perpetual invitation to curiosity, and a guarantee that the adventure of discovery is far from over. But the true power of this research isn't found in any single dataset. It's in the breathtaking moment when these separate threads of evidence are woven together into a single, cohesive tapestry. This is the art and science of synthesis, where the isolated whispers from different disciplines begin to speak to one another, revealing a story far richer and more complex than any one field could tell alone. Imagine a team of researchers working on the same cave. A geneticist is sifting through sediment, identifying the DNA of a particular species of grass that vanished from the region 50,000 years ago. In a lab down the hall, a climatologist is analyzing a stalagmite core from that very same cave, and her isotopic data reveals a dramatic, multi-century drought that began exactly 50,000 years ago. Suddenly, these two isolated facts are no longer coincidences. They are cause and effect, the genetic clue and the climate clue locked together, transforming a simple observation of disappearance into an understandable narrative of ecological collapse. This is the magic of connecting the dots. It turns a collection of interesting facts into a compelling, evidence-driven story of how our planet actually works. This big-picture, interdisciplinary approach is fundamentally reshaping the questions we can ask and answer about the deep past. We are no longer limited to asking what happened or when it happened. We can now start to understand the intricate how and why. For example, let's consider the mysterious disappearance of the majestic woolly mammoth from parts of Siberia. For a long time, the debate was starkly divided. Did climate change at the end of the last ice age kill them off, or were they hunted to extinction by humans? By using a synthetic approach, we now have a much more nuanced answer. Climate data from stalagmites shows a period of significant warming that caused the open, grassy steppes they depended on to be replaced by wetter tundra and forests, a habitat unsuitable for such a large grazer. This put the population under severe stress. Archaeological evidence from caves shows a clear human presence in the region at this same time, with spear points found alongside mammoth bones. And finally, ancient DNA extracted from the soil reveals that the mammoth's genetic diversity was in steep decline before the final extinction, indicating a population already fragmented and vulnerable. The synthesis of these three lines of evidence points not to a single villain, but to a perfect storm. Climate change shrank and degraded their habitat, making them exponentially more vulnerable to the hunting pressure from a newly arrived predator, us. This is a profoundly different and much more powerful conclusion than any one discipline could have provided on its own. This powerful way of seeing the past is our most valuable tool for anticipating the future. The models that scientists use to project everything from sea level rise to the frequency of droughts are incredibly complex computer simulations. But how do we know if we can trust their predictions? The only way to test them is to see if they can accurately retrodict the past. This is where the holistic environmental models built from cave data become the ultimate report card. Scientists can feed the initial conditions from a known period, say, the climate data from a stalagmite from 20,000 years ago, into a climate model and then run it forward. If the model's output successfully predicts the changes in vegetation shown by the pollen record, and the subsequent animal extinctions shown by the DNA record that we know actually occurred, then we can have much greater confidence in that model's predictions for the next 100 years. It's a way of stress testing our future projections against the hard reality of past events. By understanding the precise mechanisms of how ecosystems unraveled in the face of past climate shifts, we gain critical insight into which modern species and ecosystems are most at risk today, and what specific pressures, be it habitat loss, temperature increase, or invasive species, might push them over the edge. Ultimately, this collaborative, boundary-crossing way of working is the undeniable future of cave-based research and of understanding our place in the natural world. The cave itself does not separate its treasures by academic department. It preserves them all together in a single, beautiful, and chaotic jumble. To honor that inherent complexity, our methods of investigation must be equally interconnected. The most exciting discoveries are no longer happening within the isolated silos of genetics, geology, or archaeology, but in the vibrant intersections between them. It is in these collaborative spaces that a paleontologist's fossil is given an exact age by a geologist's dating technique, and its evolutionary story is fleshed out by a geneticist's DNA sequence, while an archaeologist provides the context of human interaction. This synthesis is more than just a useful strategy. It is a philosophical shift towards a more holistic view of history, one that acknowledges that the climate, the plants, the animals, and the humans are all characters in the same grand story, forever influencing and being influenced by one another. By courageously connecting these dots, we are finally reading the cave's grand, unified narrative as it was always meant to be read. The caverns that capture time offer a unique lens through which we view the intricate tapestry of Earth's history. These silent, subterranean archives are far more than just geological formations. They are a living library, a multi-volume chronicle written in the language of atoms, genes, and minerals. Every speck of dust holds a story of ancient winds. Every strand of DNA whispers the genetic code of a lost world. And every ring within a stalagmite contains the chemical echo of a rainstorm that fell when Neanderthals still walked the plains of Europe. Together, these elements weave a narrative of breathtaking scope, connecting the grand cycles of our climate to the intimate details of evolution and the resilient spread of human civilization across the globe. They show us that our story is not separate from the planet's story, but deeply and irrevocably intertwined within it. The insights we gain from these underground vaults are not merely academic, they are a crucial compass for navigating our future. By understanding the precise mechanisms of past climate shifts, the droughts that toppled empires, the monsoons that sustained them, the ice ages that reshaped continents, we gain an invaluable context for the changes we are observing today. This deep time perspective allows us to test and refine the very models we use to predict sea level rise, extreme weather, and ecosystem collapse. The genetic records of past extinctions serve as a stark warning, showing us the devastating synergy between a changing climate and human pressure, while also offering hope through the discovery of lost genetic diversity that could inform modern conservation and even restoration efforts. In this way, the past preserved in these caves provides a vital blueprint for building a more resilient and sustainable world. This incredible journey of discovery is only possible through a steadfast commitment to both exploration and preservation. The work is a delicate dance between cutting-edge technology and ancient respect, between the burning curiosity to know what lies in the next chamber and the solemn responsibility to leave it undisturbed for future generations. It requires global collaboration, uniting geologists, geneticists, archaeologists, and local communities in a shared mission to protect these irreplaceable time capsules. As we continue to explore these depths with ever more sensitive tools and ethical frameworks, we ensure that the library remains open, its most fragile volumes handled with care, its unwritten pages waiting to reveal their secrets. Thank you for joining us on this remarkable journey into the depths of time. We hope it has illuminated the profound connections between our past, present, and future. If you enjoyed this exploration, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more adventures into the mysteries of our world. We would love to hear which part of this story fascinated you the most. Was it the ancient DNA, the climate clues, or the human history? Share your thoughts and questions in the comments